this lesson, we are going to be talking about slope. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the slope of a line given an equation, a graph, and 2 points. The first part of your notes is just a basic review of graphs. Okay, so these are some things that you need to remember or should remember about graphs. All points are written in the form of x, comma, y. So your x value comes first, so that's your left to right value, and then your up and down value, your y value, comes second. There are 4 quadrants in your graph. Quadrant 1 is on the upper right. Okay, so we have quadrant 1, and then we go counterclockwise all the way around. So this is quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and then quadrant 4. The x-axis is your horizontal axis, okay, and it is where y is equal to 0. So if I drew a line through this, like that, the equation of that line would be y equals 0. The y-axis is your vertical axis, so it's the vertical line, and it's where your x is equal to 0. So if I were to draw a line straight through here, it would be the equation x equals 0. There are 4 types of slope that we need to know. The first is your positive slope. Your positive slope starts from the bottom left of your graph and goes to the upper right. It's like I'm walking up a hill. Okay, I'm exerting lots of positive energy. A negative slope starts in the upper left and goes to the bottom right. So it's like I'm skiing down a hill. This is always going to get a negative sign. A 0 slope is always in the form of an equation that says y equals some number. So in this case, this is y equals 2. It's a horizontal line that goes right through my y-axis. This has a slope of 0. I'm neither going up nor down, but I can walk on a flat surface. Anytime you have a slope, when we're using our formula later on, if I have 0 over 10, okay, this is equal to a 0 slope. Okay? The last type of slope we have is an undefined slope. Notice I have a completely vertical line. Okay, I can't walk up or down that. I'm not going to scale that cliff anytime soon. Okay, so we're going up and down, and it is an equation that would be x is equal to some number. In undefined slope, if I'm looking at a problem where I'm calculating slope from 2 points, we would have 3 over 0. 0 is in the denominator. If you were to plug that into your calculator, you will get an error because you cannot divide by 0. So if 0 is in the denominator, you have an undefined slope. The first relationship we're going to practice is our slope. Okay, so we've been talking about it, now we're going to practice it. Okay. This relationship can be represented 3 different ways. The first way is given an equation. Okay, so our first type of equation is in slope-intercept form. It's y equals mx plus b. It is the equation of a line. It's called slope-intercept. Okay. That is because we have an m that represents our slope, and b represents our y-intercept. Okay. So if I have an equation y equals 3x plus 2, the number right in front of my x right here is my slope. So m is equal to 3. That would have a slope of 3. The other way that we can write the equation of a line that you will see it is in standard form. Okay? We have ax plus by is equal to c. In this case, we can rearrange it so that it's in slope-intercept form by getting our x's and our constants on one side and our y all by itself on the left side, or we can use this formula right here and find the number in front of our x, which is a, and divide it by b and make it negative. So it's negative a divided by b. If we have a graph, we can count the rise over the run. So we can count the slope by calculating the rise, which is your vertical distance, and the run, which is your horizontal distance. are going to find slope is given 2 points, and we do that using our slope formula, which is m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It is your change in y over your change in x, or your difference of your y values over your difference in your x values. And we are going to label our points as x1, y1, x2, y2, and they are points right on your line. If you know the definition of a line, we know that a line can have an infinite number of points. Okay, so the first way we're going to find this is using example 1 from your notes, and it gives us the equation of line AB, and it says that that equation is 3x plus 7y is equal to 28. Okay, so the first method we can use is to calculate using our formula negative a over b. Okay, this works when you have ax plus by, so your x's and your y's are on one side, and then your constant is on the other. So we're going to take our number that's in front of our x, okay, I'm going to circle it. That is my a value, so I'm going to plug that in down here for a. So my slope is equal to 3, but in front of that we have a negative over b, which is 7. So the slope of this line is negative 3/7. I'm going to leave it as a fraction. Please don't change that to a decimal. Okay, the second way that we can calculate slope from this is to find the slope-intercept form. Okay, and we're going to take our 3x plus 7y equals 28, and I'm going to solve this equation for y. So I want to have something that says y equals my x's and my constants. Okay, so let's go ahead. In order to do that, I need to move my variables to the other side and move my x values. So I have a 3x. Right now I have a positive 3x. I need to move it to the other side. To move it, I have to subtract it. So I'm left with 7y is equal to negative 3x plus a 28. From here, I have 7 times y, so I need to get rid of that 7. And the opposite of multiplying by 7 is dividing by 7. So I'm going to divide by 7 on both sides. Cross that off. I'm left with just a y is equal to, well, I'm going to divide everything by 7. So I have negative 3 divided by 7. That's just going to get me negative 3/7 times x. Plus 28 divided by 7 gets me a 4. So my new equation in slope-intercept form is y equals negative 3/7 x plus 4. So now that it's in slope-intercept form, I can go ahead and find, if I have y equals mx plus b, the number in front of my x is my slope. In this case, it is negative 3/7. Okay, same slope, 2 different methods. The next way we're going to find slope is from a graph. Okay, we are going to do that by following the method of rise over run. Okay, so I'm going to find the 2 points on my graph. In this case, it is given to me. If I find my 2 points, I'm going to calculate the rise over the run. Okay, and I'm going to do that by drawing a triangle. It gives me a right triangle in here. And then I'm going to count that slope. So from here, I'm going to start how many I rise up. 1, 2, 3. So the rise was 3. And my run is 1, 2. So I have a slope of 3 halves. Anytime we're dealing with slope, we have to ask ourselves if we can simplify that fraction. 3 halves is already the most simplified version, so I don't have to worry about that. If this was a negative slope, if the slope was starting up here, going to the bottom right, I would put a negative sign out front. Okay, the last method for finding slope is when you are given 2 points on a graph. Okay, the line QR passes through points 1, 6, and 5, negative 14. So I have 1, 6, and then 5, negative 14. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use our slope formula. I have m is equal to m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, and we want to make sure that we label our points. So my first point gets an x1, y1. My second point gets an x2, y2. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and plug in our values. So we're substituting in what we just labeled. So I have a negative 14 minus 6 over my x2 minus my x1, which is 5 minus 1. Negative 14 minus 6 gives me a negative 20. Divide by 5 minus 1, that gives me a 4. And this is equal to negative 5 over 1, or negative 5. Now, we can plug this all right into Desmos, okay? So I don't want you to worry about your negatives. Make sure that you're plugging them into the calculator so that we make the least number of errors possible. If you come to the Desmos calculator by going to desmos.com/calculator, or you can just Google it, you can plug in your points right in here. So let's start by looking at if we want to just plug in this information to get negative 5. So I can actually plug in parentheses, my negative 14 minus 6. And I'm going to close my parentheses and then divide by the 5 minus 1. Okay, it will get you your answer right here. Okay, another option, if you are somebody who likes to count slope, you can always put the equation of your line in here or your points. So if I have 1, 6, and 5, negative 14, I'm going to come here and I'm going to start with my first point, which is 1, 6. Okay, close that. I'm going to change this to a table by coming up here. We'll try this. 1, 6, and then if you hit the little settings and then the table, you'll get a table. And then our other point was 5, negative 14. Okay, and it will plot your points. We can zoom out. Okay, I have mine listed. If you come up to the little wrench, it has your axis. You can have a step of 1 so that it's easier for you to count. And we could change this to, you can always change your scale so you can see more points. Okay, or we can zoom out, zoom in. You want to make sure that you have individual points that you can count. So you can come up here and we can connect our points. If you hold that button down, you can have a line, and then you would be able to actually count your slope. We have to be really careful of the steps. So if you change that to 5s, now you have one per box. So we go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And then you can count over 1, 2, 3, 4, which then gets us our negative 20. So our rise of negative 20 over 4. That is an option if you prefer that.